Welcome to Living Well with Rentwell,
the podcast for anybody who's thinking about getting into real estate,
and wants to take their game to the next level. I'm your co-host, TJ Hawk.
And I am your co-host, Rob Coldwell.
Fred.
Sir.
We've known each other for a while. And I know you as a man. I don't know much about what you do on the financial side because I'm not yet at the level, I think, of working with your firm.
That's not what this is about.
And I'd love to get there.
All right. I'll get you there.
I'd love to learn what it is that you do here, Fred.
All right.
In terms of, it doesn't seem like you are the typical financial services guy.
So, and definitely we'll land that plane. More importantly, I'll share with you. I feel like we're like Simon and Garfunkel up here. I need a guitar. More importantly, for those, everyone has a piece of real estate or want to have a piece of real estate. I'm going to walk you through. This is a carrot, either for you to use for yourself or for the next, if you're trying to buy something from someone else. And true story, it was a mobile home park in the family forever, depreciated to forever, nothing but capital gains. And mom and dad were here, but they wanted to go play golf, and they wanted to downsize. And so we were able to take that. It was a $14-ish million, almost all capital gains. And it's not one of the examples, but we'll show you. But here's what happened. We were able to get them into already built, already established institutional properties, which I'll walk you through, and that's really what a DST is. When the dust settled, I saved them probably $9 million of taxes, and they're making more money passively than when they started. They bought me a box of cigars. The real estate agent, who is a local real estate agent, it is a guy, made so much money he bought a used Bentley and showed it to me. And I'm like, where's my Fred parking spot? And he bought me a box of cigars. And the mortgage guy, I had more cigars, so I think they're trying to kill me. But at the end of the day, the actual agent, the guy talked to a norm. You know how in the agents there's always like the working mom that's also a real estate agent. She was able to do a DST because of me, just because she understood it. So you don't have to be in the super high net worth world. The biggest attractor in what we do, and for some reason the government thinks if you have $1 million you're smart. I think all of us in this room know idiot millionaires. If you don't, they're out there, and it's most of them, by the way. So the hardest thing for me is everything we're going to share with you is an accredited investment, which means the person needs to have $1 million in net worth, not counting their house. So if the piece of real estate is $1 million, you don't have to ask the awkward, you were trying, but they can't do it if they're not accredited. Now, the real estate itself might be a $300,000 capital gain townhouse. They can still do this. So I just want to make sure you know that the person has to be accredited, but they don't have to do $1 million worth of this. And then as a second real-time, I want to back into what this stuff is. How many are familiar with Phoenixville? There you go. Riverworks, one of the first big deals. Do you know who owns it? Do you know who built it?
A DST?
Toll built it. So this is the part we might need to edit, Sean, because I'm going to tell you the truth, which isn't always what they went out there.
So this is it. There's luxury apartment, Toll Brothers?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is real life background. Number one, banks like to lend you money when you don't need the money. So let's just make sure, hey, for you bankers out there, sorry, but that we know your shit. Number two, when interest rates spiked up, everyone at the banking level went to their developers. Hey, you know what? This project's going to be, I was going to say 6, 7, but if you with young kids, would be going like this. So I'm not going to say, 5 to 7%, and you need to have some working capital in our bank. So Toll Brothers said, no, we're going to sell it. This is why it can't be on the market, or it can't be in the, And then who's one of the institutions we work with, not for, who would not return my phone call 20 years ago, and now they call me with these types of things. Like, hey, we're thinking of buying a property in Phoenixville. I'm like, do you know anything about that? I'm like, I was chamber president. I was there with the gold shovel back in that day. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't want you to do it. They're like, why? I'm like, we're already high rents. There's some studios in Phoenixville that are more than New York. Like, so if you buy this, thinking you're going to jack up the rent, because that's really what the DST people need to do. They need to increase the revenue so they can sell it for more down the road. Like, that's just real estate 101, which is good, because if you're an investor, you're like, oh, I want to make income, and I want my income to go up, and I want to get out for a long for more than what I put into it, everyone's aligned with that as a goal. The guy that I was talking to said, listen, when we buy it, we can cut our expenses by 25%. I'm like, without changing the rents? Because that's what I'm concerned about that. Like, no. And I was talking to some of you guys earlier. Owns or controls 6,000 apartments in the world. They have the lowest contract with Comcast. They have the lowest contract with Asplund, leaf remover. So there's times where, and this is what I look for to answer Rob's question of what I do, I look for legal, ethical, moral, unfair advantages. That's it. I don't care if it's real estate. I don't care if it's, I don't care what it is, as long as it's legal, ethical, moral. So they have a legal unfair advantage. They have much lower contracts than Toll Brothers did. Toll Brothers had maybe 600 or 600 apartments, but not 6,000. So you got to understand the math behind it. So they are the 94% occupancy, and then the other thing, and this is just how the bigger game, like none of us, including me, level. We're not doing or Inland or CB Richard Ellis. Like we are not at the institutional level, but the DST is. And so you need to understand that world, because when someone says, I am not buying, multifamily in Phoenixville because rents are too high, you're 100% right, unless you have an unfair advantage of when the second I buy this, I got 6,000 data points. They know what the rent is. If Rob goes today to rent at that place and I go tomorrow and it's the same studio, we're going to get different numbers, because there's 6,000 apartments know when someone's opening up and there's new access capacity.
Being a landlord getting old? Late night maintenance calls? Chasing rent checks? Yeah, we get it. That's where Rentwell comes in. We handle all the annoying stuff so you can actually enjoy owning property. Sound good? Just go to rentwell.com, hit schedule a consultation, and let's talk. It's free, no pressure. Rentwell.com, a fresh approach to professional property management.
Ready to build and protect your wealth with smarter real estate strategies? At Creative Capital Wealth Management Group, we help investors grow and preserve assets with tailored financial planning and tax-efficient solutions. Visit DST-exchange.com and try the 1031 exchange calculator to see how much tax you could defer and plan your next move.
So that's the why of it. It can help you if you go to someone that you want to buy a property of. It can help you have your offer a little higher on the list, because you can say something I can't say. You can say, listen, I can help you if you sell your property to me. I can help you never pay taxes, and I know a guy that writes for Forbes. That's me. If I say, hi, I'm Fred, I write for Forbes, like, dude, it comes off wrong. Like, I can't say anything that would embarrass my mom, so you can't know half the stuff that I want to tell you. Rob can say it, but I don't care. But just putting Forbes in with your offer, and there's an article out there. So there's two gives I have for you. One is a 1031 calculator for you to use yourself, and it's DST, and I have no business cards. I have nothing to sell you. I don't know if you log in, but DST-exchange.com. I'm going to tell you two different things. Use this for the calculator. Do not make the appointment with the advisor, because you're going to get me anyway. But I own this as another company, and I have to pay 20% of what I make back to this company, so don't do that. So go directly to me if you need this. But this is where you can point people. If they're like, I don't know if I want to sell. I've never done a 1031 before, because 1031 is Latin for my headache for your headache. You know what your property is, and you're selling it. You're 1031 to a new, money pit probably. These things, all DSTs are already built, tenanted, and cash flowing before you ever wake up. And so that's really what we want to go through. And again, a DST is every type of kind of real estate, from college, senior, from college, living to senior living. Nothing with the word strip in it. So no strip clubs, strip malls, or strip centers, although strip clubs probably cash flow well. The big institutions are not doing stuff. And everyone in this space has to have a permanent baseball card of their performance. So when interest rates spiked, there was no DSTs on the market. When 2020 happened, DSTs came off the market. Now, if there was there, they filled it up. Getting back to that $100 million cost, interest rates did what they did with 50% leverage. Every DST is pre-baked with some version of 0 to 85% leverage, and you know what it is before you get there. You pick it for the leverage. $40 million of equity. That sounds like a big number. Vanguard just made that when I told you the story. So these things are big properties. You're walking by an $80 million property. Most of that $40 million with my clients in their 30 states. Because here's the other thing that you may not want to tell your investors, but I want you to know, because I can't leave here without you knowing everything, every place a DST strategy would work. One is a carrot to have someone use you to sell the property, or sell the property to you if you're a developer. Hey, I'd like to buy this land from you. Oh, I don't want to pay taxes on it. Well, what if you sell it to me and pay no taxes? Go talk to Fred. I met him with Rob, and he didn't write the book on DSTs, but he wrote the Forbes article. So the first thing is DST-exchange.com is where you go to play the numbers. Play with your own numbers. Play with the person's numbers of who you're trying to buy and say, hey, if you were to sell it to me, here's what it would do. And they don't have to use me for the 1031, but at least show them the numbers. No one ever says no when they say, if no one ever goes out of their way to say yes to paying taxes. I'll put it that way. So I want to make sure this serves you. I have, my team built PowerPoints. There's two things I want to go over, but that was the DST exchange is the one thing I wanted to give you as a takeaway. Use it forever. We're going to update it again. If someone were to ask, why did I do that? And you need to know who I am. I'm creative. It's in my name. I wanted something that would be all of my articles in Forbes that are all polite, are all approved and compliant and polite, I guess. I wanted to have like Fred AI. Hey, I have a property I don't want to pay taxes on, or I just have a huge amount of income. How can I reduce taxes? And because I'm licensed, I'm a fiduciary. Our compliance said you can't do it because someone might see it as advice. So eventually on DST Exchange, you're going to see Franklin, because hey, that's not my company. That's not That's not my registered investment advisor company. That's my other company. So if the rules are I can't talk to you, then I'm going to hire a company that can talk, because I want people to be educated, because they're accredited, they can never be advertised. You're never going to see a 5-star Morningstar review of any of these things. That $80 million property that only had $40 million of equity disappeared in the world in 3 weeks. And most of those 3 weeks with me and my clients get it in there. And so the one takeaway is the DST exchange. The second one, if you go to Forbes.com and put my last name in, I'm paid by Forbes, but the articles are free to you. I did an article on DSTs. I was a very conservative, if you own real estate, this will change your life. I like to lowball the expectations. But that article is what you send to your tenant. It's what you send to the person you might want to buy. I don't want to do it. It doesn't sell anything. It just tells you what it is. And really what it is, for those of us that are old enough, a DST is a 19-year-old new, because no one knows about it. I've been doing it for 19 years, new version of a tenant in common. So if you're in real estate, tenant in common, it's you and your brother-in-law, no problems. You and maybe 40 other people, you got problems. Because at my Thanksgiving, we couldn't agree on what to have for dessert. So imagine having investors in a real estate. So all a DST is a better structure of a tenant in common, where the sponsor, Canner, Inland, whoever is the person put it out there, they act like a managing partner, but it's not a partnership. So you're in it for the ride. So, do you want to go over?
That wasn't a lot at all.
Play me back at half speed, and I sound like a normal person. If you've ever seen me on TV, I know the first thought, you thought I was taller. Well, on TV, I have a perfectly proportioned torso. I'd like to say I'm fun-sized. That's my art. So
right,
what questions do you have?
Let me play that back.
Sure.
So we do have a PowerPoint that we're going to give for some visuals of how these things are set up.
Yep.
We're also going to look at an $18 million real estate portfolio of maybe like whatever those assets were, some mixed use and houses and everything else, that then is getting transferred to these next level types of these tenant in common, meaning that you own shares of stock, if you will, in that.
You actually own the underlying property.
You own the.
It's not a REIT. It's not a partnership. There's settlement. I own 0.000025. I own a windowsill.
Phoenixville Commons that was worth $120 million. They bought for $80, and $40 million was raised to be at 50% LTV.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So
close enough.
Like grade A assets, you actually own a piece of it, which means you also get maybe like the other benefits of real estate.
Depreciation, amortization. You have all the landlord benefits and then the landlord headaches. It's cash flowing a little bit shy of 5, but there was no capital gains for the people to get into it, and that goes up as rents go up. So it's not locked in. It's not a CD. Could it go down? Yes, it could go down. You own the real estate, and all of us know this as a landlord. There's two return courses. There's the the landlord amount, the real estate landlord money, and that's the income on your rent. And then there's a real estate investor return, and that is what you sell it for. So that 5% number isn't the return of the investment, it's the return that you're getting as a landlord. And all of these companies, because of that baseball card of they have to show full cycle, the reason these things live for 5 to 7, there are some exceptions that are shorter and that are longer, but we'll generalize it. The reason they last 5 to 7 years is my fees aren't even shown on the statement. $1 million into that DST, the client statement shows $1 million. I'm a cost of expense. I'm who gets sued if it's wrong. I'm the advisor, and Cantor Fitzgerald doesn't deal with your client. They barely want to deal with me, but they do because I'm bringing in the money. And people like me. I'm not the only one. So at the end of the day, we're not a cost of expense they see on, but we're paid only once on these things. And that $1 million, if you're doing a DST, and probably would do multiple DSTs at $1 million, that client doesn't see the $1 million has any headwind. And they get income the very next month, again, because they're just exchanging their equity for the sponsor's equity. And then at some point out of their control, and this is the analogy that I use that I think I want you guys to think of. If you're doing a DST, the person that sits here is the travel agent. You or your client are going on vacation. We go into Mexico, New Mexico, Jamaica, overseas, and then I'm going to pick the plane. And the plane will be Cantor Fitzgerald. That plane will have a 5 to 7 year flight. Even if you die, you're still on the plane. They're not landing the plane because you want your $1 million back of an $80 million or a $600 million Amazon distribution center. Like, you'll know exactly what you're in. Right. But when the plane lands, you're going to have 3 options. You can leave the airport. That $1 million is worth $1.5 million. You pay the taxes. If it was a 1031, you pay the taxes. You're deferred. Most people don't take that, but I can't tell you there's 3 doors and not tell you all 3. Door number 2 is that $1 million now is 1.5. They still want to be a passive investor in institutional real estate. They come back and use me again. I'm very happy, and we have enough on the street that I don't have to worry about. So I'm here to help because I have nothing to sell you. I could care less if you become a client because I'm a good. Want to help, but I don't want you to think I'm hungry. So every 5 to 7 years, it's like a kid saying, "Hit me again." Are you dead? No, I'm still here. Do you want to pay taxes? No, I'm still here. I don't want to pay taxes. Roll me again. So we can go to storage, we can go to senior living. Third option, and this is for you that are in real estate. So even if you use a carrot to get an apartment building for someone, or you use a carrot to get someone to buy the apartment building, and either way you get it, that third option, using the same example of $1 million is now worth 1.5, you can 1031 back into a property you own yourself. So in 2020, when no one knew how to do anything, none of us knew what happened, we probably moved $40 to $50 million of real estate that was already being sold into way more institutional, way less risk. And the intent is in the next 5 to 7 years, which now it's starting to unwind, that investor is getting his profit, got the income, got to sleep. His wife didn't kill him, and now that money isn't going into the next DST, it's going into their next deal. So this isn't an all or nothing. And then if someone's really old and has property, they wouldn't do a 1031 into a DST and stop there. They would then do a 721, which Rob kind of mentioned maybe by accident, but a 721 gives you shares of a REIT. So if you have $1 million DST and you call and say, I want $200,000, you're on the plane. You're not taking any money off other than what they're paying you. If that same $1 million is in an UPREIT, so a 721 after a DST, and you ask for $200,000 of the million, you can have it because it's shares. See the difference? So if someone wants to, hey, this is never it's my legacy, and I want my kids to have, you can have the money, you can have some real estate. If you inherit shares of the REIT, you don't have to be accredited. So a lot of our accredited clients, their kids aren't accredited. So the parents buy it knowing they're going to die at some point. Now the kids can have it. So the government restricts you from buying it if you're not accredited. So it restricts me from telling you about it. So this is all educational, Mr. Podcast. So, past, present.
Was that door 3, Fred?
Door 3 is you can go private. So if you're using the airplane, the airport analogy, you leave the airport as door number 1, you get on another flight, it's door number 2, or you go private, door number 3. You take your money that you made in the DST and you 1031 in your own property.
When you say your own property, a future property that you're purchasing, not like something you already own.
Nope, I'm not involved. You just, where do you want to send it? And it's still tax-free, so we're not, So I also want this to be interactive. So I'm talking really fast. I've been doing this for 23 years, so what I take for granted.
Maybe one of the slides that we wanted to cover with this would be helpful just to
Perfect. That
lay
was
some,
polite way
lay
of saying,
some
shut the hell up, Fred, and
groundwork.
just let's do this.
And I think that it'll, kind of cycle through. So why don't you walk? Did you want me to do this slide or
Yeah,
start?
this is perfect. No,
Okay.
I mean, this is common sense. So the left-hand side, I'm not calling saying, hey, you should have better coffee, and they don't care. So it's passive, it's hands-off. Well, most people are going to get a DST. They're going to know the address because with a 1031, you have to say, hey, where are you going? But it's not going to be local. That just happened to be because we know Phoenixville, and I was concerned that they wouldn't be able to make money without jacking up the rents. They haven't changed the rents. They actually came down, but because they lowered their expenses, they've increased the ROI of the building. Because when you buy a building, it's not what's your rent, it's what's your profit. So if you can't bump rents up any higher, spend less money. So, and Toll Brothers, if you ask them, they probably wouldn't have said they wanted to sell it, but they didn't want to refinance. They didn't pay 8% on a project when they have money in the bank. They're just going to self-fund it. Going on the left-hand side. So passive, these are all going to be, the smallest DST I've ever done was a $40 million DST. The largest was $1.2 billion. And that was pre-built for FedEx and Amazon sortation systems. So it was a sale-lease buyback. So it wasn't the Amazons they were closing because they only bought that to have a footprint. It was the ones they just built for themselves. Now, it's a 20-year lease with that. This DST was a 20-year lease with Amazon. But again, we're only in it for 5 to 7 years. Maybe in 10 years we'll have replicators, and now that's going to be like an old folks' home. Not my problem, because me and my clients are out for 5 to 7 years. So institutional is really the thing. It's a risk off. I'm not going to beat what Rob does with his real estate. I will never beat, because he's taking all the responsibility and all the risk, and he should get way more return than a risk off. I want to play golf for a living and go to Florida. The diversification. There's one DST that we have that's all essential retail, and it's the only DST that we like. And again, there's hundreds out there. There's about 30 that we trust, because I'm the travel agent. I'm not flying the plane, so you're trusting me. I got to trust American Airlines or Canner, whoever's flying it. So the diversification, this one DST has about 18 properties, all triple net lease, all essential income, didn't miss one penny one day, even during COVID, because it's a grocery store, blood dialysis center, Hobby Lobby, like things that never closed even during COVID.
So that's rare.
It's
rare
rare
for a DST
to have more than one thing in
like
it.
18
Right.
assets within one. Usually they're just much. 40
Right.
million says the smallest, 1.2 is the largest. So they're single.
Yep,
okay.
at the address level, which is easy, because if you had that one DST with 18 tenants, it was over 5 states. So depending on how much money you had you now have to do tax returns in those other states. You own the property. It's not an investment from like a REIT or partnership. You own underlying property, which adds to complexity. And that's part of my job, to make sure it's the simplest way of doing a complex thing. If you're selling something with debt, you have to go into DSTs that at least at the total amount to debt, the same amount of debt or more, and that saves you. So let's say you are a realtor and you have someone buying another property that you set them up with, but there's something left over. And if he doesn't place that leftover equity because your building wasn't big enough, or he didn't want to buy the building, not your building, you could use it, as long as the investor is accredited, you can use a DST for $50,000 equity that keeps the whole 1031 tax-free. So again, it's all about the investor. Now, if it's a trust, they got to have $5 million in net worth. If it's an individual, $1 million net worth, or $300 of joint income. So for all the doctors out there,
to be able to invest in a DST.
In a DST. Even if you're only putting 25 in a DST, the government says, "Are you rich?" And if the answer is no, I'm like, well, then you're not even allowed to know what Fred does.
And one of the reasons is because once you make that investment,
Very illiquid.
as Fred's saying, you're not getting off that plane turning it around. Like, you're there for the duration of until that goes full cycle.
Yeah.
So they're protecting the consumer that's their last $50,000, and they all of a sudden want to get off the plane.
Right.
And they can't.
And if it is, I'd be like, pay your taxes because you're not investing. Like again, we will do what's right. So you get that debt that's on a DST is non-recourse. So your debt gets sold at settlement. I'll be right. You're the other Fred, so I'm special with you. When you buy the DSTs, if it comes with debt, it just comes with it. So if you don't need the debt, you're getting it anyway. And if you have a debt on the DST, that's the amortization expense that knocks down your taxable income. So you kind of want that. Fred, The other Fred.
The other Fred. So it's great. I'm hearing a lot of why it's a great thing to maybe possibly invest in. Tell me what the risk parameters are.
Perfect.
That if I invested a bucket of money and I'm there for 5 to 7 years, how could I lose?
I'll give you my worst case scenario. How about that? No one ever starts with, like, here's the time I, had the biggest pimple on my chin. Like, you don't want to know that. So it was not a DST. It was a tenant in common, because back in the good old days, it was a Gander Mountain. So it's like a French Creek outfitter. It was Wichita to Kansas. It was a Gander Mountain owned building, $45 million building in like 2007. So we're talking, it had a lake in it. It had the archery ranges. 2008 happened. Gander Mountain stock was a public company, hits the floor like everyone else. They do the right thing. They buy their shares off and they go private. Unbeknownst to me then, anyone then, by the way, and it was one of those institutions I mentioned's product, there was a clause in the mortgage that says if you are no longer public, we can call the mortgage, which is usually not a problem, except from 2008 when no one has any mortgages, and you were just like all the banks, like I said, love you banks, but when you need the money, they don't want to give it to you. And this was 2008. It was one of those times like, one, they didn't have the money, and they didn't want to give it to you. So it kind of snowballed. Long story short, it was meant to be a 5 to 6 year tick. Ended up being 9 years. The company, and this is the company we still use, could not lose Gander Mountain as a tenant, because who the hell is going to buy a building with a river in it? Like, other than Cabela's, and they already have their own.
How do you spell this? I need to see what this is.
Gander Mountain. Gander Mountain, and it's still there. I think it's a $130 million building now. Long story short, so worst case scenario, the income went to from 7, it was built to be a 6%, 6.5%, went down to 2 for 2 years. The hold wasn't the 5 to 6, it was 9.
Oh, okay.
Because what happened was they didn't want to lose Gander Mountain, and Gander Mountain didn't do anything wrong. They actually did a smart thing.
What, I haven't about
Yeah.
it. Okay.
So this
is like a Bass Pro Shops.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So if that tenant
So
moves
it's a ski
out,
resort
who the
at
hell's
first.
moving in?
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's
Got
very
it.
good.
So it's a very unique.
It's like I said,
building.
if you were paying attention, I said French Creek Outfitters. Just kidding.
Got it.
Oh, no,
We're going to replay that?
Cabela's. I'll do it Cabela's. All right.
Sean.
I got a regional. I talk all over the country, so Cabela's would have been the better reference. So that's an example
Know
of
your audience, Fred.
the length is longer, so there is a chance. But here's the thing you have going for you, kind of like peer pressure, and you have that with me because there's 2 really good things in my life I got from this man. So when he said, "Would you talk to my dig people?" I thought it was like something like Bob the Builder, fan club or something. Like, all right, whatever you want to do. So it was longer than we thought, and the person couldn't get out even if he wanted to. And the income went down, and it just meant the income went down. I've never seen it not pay because there's always some expenses. And for them to have some income, they did 2 different things. It was temporary because it took about 1.5 years before Gander could get a real mortgage and everything went better. But for those 2 to 3 years, the company, the sponsor, took no fees, renegotiated the lease to a much lower amount just to keep something going, and then obligated Gander Mountain, the company that's not a resort, to refi as soon as they could. But at one point, they had almost a hard money loan of 18% because that's the only mortgage. I mean, no one had the money, and we didn't want to. You can never have a capital call with a DST, and the debt on the DST is fixed. If there's any debt, it's fixed for the life of the DST. So there's no interest rate risk. It's just there might be a refi risk, and they can't even refi.
Okay.
We have another question.
Oh, cool. Are there property classes that you prefer in terms of like multifamily versus the single tenant industrial building or Gander Mountain?
Short answer is I have favorites. Buying multifamily today from someone who bought it for the wrong number 2 years ago, I'll do that all day, every day. That's kind of what a forced seller. That's some storage in some areas have been played out. There's more storage locations, and there's people that want to store their crap, and the people making the storage don't want you to know that because that's all they do. And so it becomes like we're going to do it because we think it works, or because we don't know anything else to do. They're not honest to do that. Some retail is still have, like essential retail still is very good. Mobile home parks. So this is an interesting one. Just like when mutual funds came out, it was S&P 500, and the ETFs were all S&P 500, and now you can get like a negative crypto-related derivative, get very complicated. DSTs are the same way. So there's DSTs out there that are meant to give you high income. There's DSTs out there that are meant to say, listen, I'm a doctor. I don't need any more income. I just want real estate. I never want to pay taxes, but I need some help with taxes. So there's DSTs now that give you all the depreciation, all the expenses, and they don't pay you the income. They use the income to pay down the debt. And so you get, because you can accelerate, if you're only going to be at 5 to 7 years and it's a 15, you can accelerate that stuff. So there's zero income DSTs. And then the one that I like is the value add DST. So I'm personally in, and this is one benefit that you might not want to tell any of your investors because I'm not trying to take your business. But let's say someone has $100,000 and they're accredited. They have $100,000 to do real estate. There's a cap to the quality of property they're going to buy. If the $100,000 is your down payment, and there's a cap to the quality of tenant that will be in that quality of property. Like, that's just the way the world works. Rich people aren't in Section 8. If they have a choice, they're not going to do it. That same $100,000 can be a partial owner of an $80 million Cantor Fitzgerald in Phoenixville. Like, it's so all of our doctors who have the $900,000 a year salary, they're the ones you want to go to if you have cancer or brain surgery. They have no time, and they have no patience, and they have no skill to be a landlord. You guys that are landlording, God bless you. I outsource my landlording to him. And then one reason, because someone says, hey, you believe in real estate, why don't you have more real estate? I own a high school in my house, and the high school's for our office. Last year, and this is what's kind of scary, the year before last, so it was 24, 18 different families came to us with their only asset. So it was the family that had a mobile home park, or it was the family that owned the storage in the area. And it was the family's business is how the Chamber of Commerce knew them. This is around the country. Okay. I asked them one question, and here's the weird thing. I asked them actually two questions, and 18 families during 12 months who didn't know each other said the same answer, and this is why I no longer have personal real estate. I said, why are you selling now? Your grandfather started this business, or your grandmother. They always had, it was the same story, just different people. We don't think anything's going to get any better, and our income source scares us. Like, we don't trust that we're going to keep getting paid, And it wasn't one person. All 18 families said a derivative that we don't think anything's going to get better, and we just want income. We want to start to have income we can, that's less risky.
This all sounds recent.
Yeah.
Because I don't think 20 years ago somebody would have said
No,
that.
this was 3 years.
Yeah.
This is 2024.
Yeah.
So
That's the theme now.
Yeah. And so it's out there because again, if you got through 2020 with real estate and you still had your mortgage, but they didn't have to pay a tent, that scares the crap out of you. And now they're on the other side. Companies going well, tents are going back up. Do you want to show an $18 million deal?
Sure.
I will send you a slide deck, by the way.
You talked about getting into a DST. Okay, we understand accredited investor. You can use your trust. You can use money from the sale of your real estate. Can you use a self-directed IRA?
You can, but you shouldn't. You get none of the tax benefits. There's private REITs you can do there. We just, in your self-directed IRA, non-real estate, like not everything's real estate. Usually self-directed IRAs, if someone's a real estate developer, real estate's the last asset class they need more of. You guys are like gold bugs, but of real estate. And I love you, and I was too. But most of the times, like, listen, let's do something different with there. Let's go buy some SpaceX. Let's go do some. We have a private share that has 9% SpaceX, which is kind of cool.
What's the minimum investment to go into a DST?
So most are 100,000. We do enough volume. So there's two things that we do that provide different. One, we can lower the minimum. Like, well, hey, Rob needs 25 grand, or else his whole 1031 that he did other places is going to blow up. They'll let me in. And then we're one of the few places in the country that can put cash in a DST. Most DSTs, if they even offer it, only will let 1031 money. But for our doctors who make a ton of money, or that person that had 100,000 that wants to be in real estate, you can do what you want to do with 100,000. You'll probably make more money doing it yourself, and you'll probably have more risk, and it might not land the way you want. Or set it and forget it and pick a DST, and you get to pick. My job is to match it. But if you're putting cash in, you can pick any DST in the world. If you have a 1031 deal, the combo of the DSTs have to meet the debt that you had, or else it's taxable. And that's my job. We do the math, and that's where that calculator on that DST exchange, play with that calculator, either for yourself or for someone that you might want to try to help them sell. Shoot.
And what about timing on this? Like, you sell a property, and there's a period of time you have to buy a property.
So you got 45 days.
Yes. And are you able, like, I call you and I say, hey, I'm selling a property on February 15th. Are you able to put the money in play in February 16th? Or?
This week, At the 43rd day, person called me, and they're like, everywhere I go, you're the only name that comes up. I'm like, all right. And everyone calls me. I don't know if they have $1 or whatever. I'm like, well, so what's the deal? It's like, well, we sold some land. It's no debt, North Carolina. And I'm like, okay, $3 million. I'm like, oh, now you got my attention. All right. So here's the IRS rule is you have 45 days to identify. I'm here to tell you how life works, at least in my world. Only the crappy DSTs are alive for 45 days. We sold that in it filled. 40 million is nothing. So my job is one, before it's sold, before that 45-day, because no one makes a good decision under pressure. And if you think you do, you're the person I'm talking about. You really don't. You don't think it through. So, and if you don't, hopefully you've been lucky. So long story short, we would work with whoever is interested to see what kind of real estate do you want. Here's senior living, and show all of that. And we haven't talked about fees yet, and fees are on the table, so I'm going to talk about that too. We then identify what kind of DSTs they like. We'll find a sponsor that is in that space. We'll do a due diligence call with the sponsor to say, what's the worst time you've ever done it? What's the, because I care that we're on the right plane. I don't care if you take the trip. And that's who you want on your side. I'm not pushing people to it. I'm saying, all right, let's figure this out. Is there a better way to do it, or is this the way to do it? So then once you're educated, I then get your equity reserved. So basically, whenever settlement is that week, you're also getting into the DST. Now, if you're in cash, it's almost like the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. I know how to order it, but if you're not in cash, there's only so long I can hold that equity, because there's a whole bunch of every good DST is sold out with people waiting to get in. I've been doing this for 25 years. I get business from these DST guys. They let me in, and I couldn't build my business today the way my business and people, I was blessed. You're smart. No, I was blessed, lucky, and smart in that order, because my first office was the same zip code as Vanguard. Never going to be bigger, never going to be cheaper. So I cheated and looked at Harvard and Yale endowment in 2003, and my office just does what the endowment does, but for not Harvard, for regular people. There was another, shoot. An hour's not going to be long enough.
It goes quick, but we can stay a little later.
Compare the DST to a typical syndication.
Good. So syndication, let's say, $200,000 in both of them. You're an investor in a syndication that owns real estate, or you invest in real estate. So day one, I might not beat you in the first cycle, because that syndication's not Cantor Fitzgerald. They might be buying one or two things, where this one over here is buying an $80 million building with a way to already monetize it. So you should make more money on the syndication. Mine will come in with less return, but no taxes. By the second flip of that money, I'm ahead. I'm literally the tortoise, not making as much, but having nothing slowing me down. Because if you swap to you drop, which is the technical term, and at some point, and I met all you nice people just now, so I will kill me and my wife. At some point, that step up, the taxes I never paid never get paid. And now, if it's a DST, my kids get out, they get off the plane.
So you will need a different form of cash flow to fund your family living if you're investing a lot in DSTs, or is there cash flow that's coming off?
Absolutely cash flow.
Okay.
I'll show you. Before we run out of time, there's two things we want to show you. Rob shared a highly leveraged portfolio, which sometimes usually means you're in the building phase. If you're going to have a highly leveraged building, you probably just bought them or you took money out to go buy another thing. So let's bring that up.
Okay.
I know you can't read it, and that's probably a good thing, because I didn't know it was going to be a podcast, and I am telling you nothing. I'm telling you all the stuff off the record, so I want to make sure.
This is the portfolio, real life portfolio. I could go through a budget, know every number for
this
trash
is Rob's stuff,
and
not
real
a
estate
DST.
taxes and everything. So about 100 units purchased in the last 4 years. My own money, outside capital money. When what Fred's mentioning also is a lot of Burr model of buy it, renovate it, refinance it, and that ends up with higher leverage because you keep growing. So what this looks like is if we took the portfolio and we flipped it into a DST.
So
it's right here, this one.
Open up in the PDF viewer.
Okay.
Makes it bigger.
So I go to
down on the taskbar. I left it open for you.
Okay. That was the $18 million one, I thought.
Okay, well, then we go back. Put the other one. That's fine. Whichever one you want.
Let's flip it. I think it's more realistic
To do yours.
that somebody would have
All right.
$4 million worth of equity in real estate after working for, maybe 10, however many years that takes.
All right.
Now, Fred saw this and said, it's not really good for you, Rob. I looked at it and say, I know what my real life cash flows are. I know that if I own 140 doors, I'm putting aside $100,000 a year because a storm could come through. I might need a roof. I might need, that's 140 stoves. I don't want to own 140 stoves. I want cash flow. So when I saw this, I said, wow, that's actually quite attractive.
All right. So just going through, I'm going to not say the sponsors out loud because of the podcast. And I want to, I have a clean U4 and 25 years doing the most complicated things by not speaking. So, but I will tell you what they do. First one is a triple net lease. I needed it because if you go down, I have to match this loan to value or else it's taxable. Like if he sells all his real estate, that's the amount of loans that we have to go into DSTs that have that same or more.
So what I'm a GP on is $20 million. That has $13 million worth of debt. So that's where we're getting the $7 million. My $4 million comes in that I'm the GP. So I might own 36% of a building, or I might own 100% of the building, depending on when I bought it. So what Fred's firm was able to do is I gave them a list of all of the real estate, when I bought it, what's owed, what I think it's worth, and then his analysts sat down and said, okay, based upon your $7 million worth of equity, these are the.
So we have to put this in because of the leverage, and that satisfies most of the debt. That DST's job is to be the loan. There's no income. There's barely any. It's not meant to be income. It's meant to make sure the rest of it gets tax-free. Make sense?
So the first one. So basically,
this one
you
here is
have
necessary to keep it tax-free.
You have to match the amount of debt that I have because you're doing a 1031 exchange in effect from all of these scattered site, single and small multifamily. It's like one large exchange, or in fraction, right? You're not going to sell every property.
To keep it simple, we pretended like you sold all of it.
Got it.
To one guy that bought it, or girl, and bought it, because you're not going to do this. It'll look different if you did it in pieces. Make sense? Because we wouldn't have if we only sold some of it. So long story short, I thought it would be an ugly number. He's like, no, if I factor in what I'm actually, like, that's actually better not working. You're doing, so that's kind of, but this is where the DST blending comes in. So this does nothing for us but keeps the thing tax-free because it does all the debt. This is Florida. The state matters. There's no income tax. So we don't have to pay taxes on this. Multifamily. It has a decent amount of debt, and it's giving us right now 4.6 is the rent roll. So there's $86,000 just coming from that money. Another multifamily. So this answers the question: what do I like? It's smartly built multifamily. Both of these are near very large. Middle, professional working, not Section 8, but also not everyone's going to have a job at Google. So these are close to that. This one here is in Mississippi. Pays a little bit less because this is a value add. It pays some money, but at the DST level, it generates closer to 5.5. A DST can't have a capital call. A DST can't refinance the debt. So the difference between what's paying the investors and what it's creating, that's the money they use to build the pickleball. That's the money they use to, get better kitchen stuff. You know it going into it.
So they're using the cash flows of the
don't
property
pay you.
that are non-distributed to invest back into the building.
So I did a 55 and over mobile home community in Florida with cash. It paid a whopping 3.5% the first year because it makes 6%. And it uses the 3% to literally do the pickleball and add extra units. So in 5 to 7 years, I know I'm selling a better property. For me, in that one or this one, I know we're selling a better property because we took a haircut of income to make it a better property. So you have to look for where the value add's going to be. This one's neat because this one is a 3-year land only, and it's a developer. So I always want to make sure you always follow the why. Why would a developer? So if you're a developer and you have 3 phases, you're building phase 1, why do you have all your money tied up in the land of phase 2 and 3? So this developer happens to be a company that does both Texas and Florida. They do $50 million gallon lagoon communities. That's what they're known for. And then this land bank, it's a DST. There's no debt. Pays 7%, way bigger than the 5 to 6 I told you. It's a 3-year deal. all we're going to get is our money back in 3 years. It's land. But the developer put the land in a land bank in a DST, prepaid 3 years of 7% in as escrow in that DST before you ever get $1 of my money. And in 3 years, we get the money back. Now, I did it for two things. One, every one of these things is now a new airplane up in the air. I have no idea when it's going to land. Now, I know this one's going to be landing in 3, but 5 to 7, like we don't know. So if you have one property worth $15 million and you buy 15 $1 million DSTs, which isn't out of the question, you now have 15 new 1031s in your future because they're all going to come at a different time. Does that make sense? So there is a balance between diversification and overly complicating things, and the only person making more money is your accountant, and that's really where the relationship with the client and finding out what they need to do. Shoot.
How many of your clients want to maybe get back into active investing, so spreading out between 5 or 15 where they're all going to come due at a different time would lower their capital ability to still use that chunk of money to do something on their own?
Yeah.
Is it a small percentage?
So the bottom line of this portfolio was $290,000, so a blend of 4.2. And I was insulted. I'm like, that's not reason to do it for someone like him. What did you say?
Yeah, that was that for me. If that is that my existing portfolio would generate that if I didn't have to put aside any reserves for larger CapEx projects, and over time it would go up because I'm paying down the debt. So there's a balance sheet side of it, but I was really happy with that, Fred.
I was insulted.
That's because that's if we've been in real estate long enough, you realize this is not passive, even with a property manager or you're an asset manager. And what I mean is there's an emotional side of it. I was just in Florida for about 10 days. I was waking up sometimes and thinking about, oh gosh, there's a winter storm coming in PA. There's $2,000 right there, and did the salt buckets get done, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's just an emotional thing. So a question after this question is, I do want to get to the emotional side of when you're working with basically those people like ourselves who they've made this transition. How do they handle it emotionally? But I actually forgot what the question was.
I have a cash out question.
It was how to cash out and
so,
who cashes in. But I was happy with this number, and I thought, you know what, it's more incentive for me. Let me let my debt go down, buy some more assets, keep going, because,
So if there's $1 million of equity, then you can use a special kind of DST, and we've just did a bunch of these this year. And this is the part cannot even be on the podcast.
Okay.
Are you guys ready for that?
No notes.
Not break any laws. I'm going to get very close. So you're not allowed to do a simultaneous transaction. You can't put a huge mortgage on a property and then 1031 it and decide that you just, cashed out and 1031. But you can 1031 and then get a mortgage. No one's going to stop you after you 1031 to get a mortgage. I get everybody?
Got it.
So there's a firm.
Yeah, that was a lot. And there's, 20 years we could have replicators.
There you go. That's awesome.
That'd be cool. Or not.
So where can there's a lot to unpack here. Shoot.
So if you go back to that example, you had an average of 4% return.
Right. Do you want to show them the good one?
Yeah, I'll show them the good one, Fred. Yeah, that was a 4% distribution.
No, that'll change.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is there any kicker at the sale?
Yes. So let's go back to each of these. Great question.
So that's 4% on the $7 million is just under the $300,000.
So,
got it.
Remember, there's two returns: my landlord return and I'm a real estate investor return. This is just a landlord return.
Okay.
This is nothing, but this keeps the whole thing tax-free. So in his case, it saves him hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. That's worth not making anything for 5 to 7 years. All of these go up over time because of what type of real estate they are.
And when you say that's worth not making anything over time, that what you mean is you're getting cash flow on the ones that have cash flow, but you're not taking out equity or refinancing. There's no capital events.
Nope.
So you're living, and you went as passive as I think we all could understand passive to be within the real estate.
So I played with $7 million, and I split it up here. So depending on who the tenant is how the income runs. Multifamily, income changes every time you have a new tenant. Storage changes every day. Triple net lease, which is this guy here, it's a 20-year lease. The only thing changing the income is rent bumps, and you're not getting any income, so you don't even see it. All the income generated here is paying down that debt. Uncle Sam has to, banks, if they're going to lend it to you. So let's show you one
to the big boy.
that is a little bit later in life. $18 million of property
And $3 million.
and only $3 million of debt. So this is my normal day. This is the unwinding of the guy. And it's funny, there's guys in Go Abundance, and that's how I know Rob and Alex. There's guys in Go Abundance that are known for real estate. They don't have real estate. They have all DSTs with me because it's been 20 years and everything now needs a roof, and they're not going to change your rent because they need a roof. I had Phoenixville Rentals love it till I realized I needed to put Trex deck because it was a townhouse and 20-year-old wood, and they did the right thing. You got to replace it in 5 years with Trex deck. Well, unless I can get away with a Trex deck surplus rider on the rent, I was never going to pay for that Trex deck. So here's what we did for this one. A little bit different person, but bottom line this is using different DSTs to kind of give us, this is the net lease one. So sometimes this is the only DST we do because it's almost like a balance fund. It's 5 properties, 4 tenants, 4 states, 20-year master, CVS pharmacy. CVS pharmacy.
Oh.
I feel like Vanna
Sorry.
White over here.
All right, Vanna.
So anyway, when we say, essential income, not only is it the tenant, but also the master lease is at the high. So even if Verizon Wireless closes all their stores, they're on the hook for this store, or else this company doesn't get involved. Make sense? So this is where I put my purple-haired old ladies. They never have to worry about it. They understand it. We had a different one, and this one, same company, but we had so much to play with. So long story short, a lot of essential real estate. So this was a risk off. This is the least risky portfolio I could do. Keep going. We'll go to the bottom line, and stop right there. So I need to get more income. You can 1031 into mineral rights, which is, if you watch Landman, this is my Landman play. I'm making 18%.
When is season 2 coming?
It's already out. It's
Hey,
already out.
what a good day.
You missed the
Good day,
I went to
okay.
the old folks home. They got in trouble.
That's an amazing show.
It's out.
This is Landman. And so what happens here is you're going to get your money back down the road, your capital back, but you're going to get 18 to 24%, the client, for the next 7 to 8 years.
We pay you a box of cigars still? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
No, I will go through fees, by the way. So this is a government building, so you kind of can see it. On the left-hand side is the asset class. The more money you have, the more you're going to get away from just multifamily. You're going to end up getting some energy. Right office is still not the wrong investment. Most office is the wrong investment, but the right office isn't. It's Social Security offices, brand new, built for the government, and leased back to this company for 30 years. So bottom line, bottom right, we'll go to the bottom right.
All right.
Show them the money.
We have more, but wait.
So show them, back up a little bit. I just want to show the income. $813,000.
On 15 million equity.
15 million.
Okay.
That portfolio, where the 18 million came from, a lot of single doors. Could not find a management company. He didn't know Rob, but couldn't find a management company he trusted, so he had to buy a management company just to manage his 1,800 doors.
Oh, 1,800 doors.
1,800 doors.
A lot of doors.
He was netting maybe 5.
500 on 1,800 doors.
And that's, I could do what you're thinking of.
Yep.
Like, well, what about your future roofs? What about, I'm just talking about, he's like, so his problem is he has nothing to do now, and he's driving his wife nuts. Literally. So I'm working with, and it's not done yet, I'm working with a bank to lend on some of the equity, because the equity to a bank for this is way safer than the crack place. Like, he had some crack places up in Allentown, literally Section 8 housing, and the bank would lend on that. That same bank wouldn't lend him on any of this, which blows my mind. I'm like, all right. How is Amazon for 20 years more risky than a crack house? But I'll let him do it. Fees. All other than that cash out DST, every other DST pays the Me's of the world a placement fee, and it's their cost of the exchange. So if Rob gave me a check for 18 million, his statements would show 18 million. We're paid 5% of the equity. We're paid once. We're involved for as long as you and/or the investment lived, whichever's longer. Most clients come back for more, or they do other stuff. Now, the reason I did this for Dig and I did it for Rob, this isn't what I do. Our office does family office stuff. So we have a trademark retainer-based planning, which they say we're going to charge money quarterly, and we'll help you wherever your money's at, whether it's your 401k, at Vanguard, we don't charge fees. But now we're at the table of people worth $5 to $50 million, and we'll say, hey, all your real estate, would you like to get rid of it? So that is where we started. I'm not here for this, but you can check us out. Like I said, we're in
website.
There we go. There's
Really
the
cool office.
There's the
building
high
if
school.
you like real estate.
In 30 states now, and get paid to write about alternative investments. So when you say alternative investments, it's like the color blue. You have no idea what I mean. And if I ask you to picture color blue, you really like that picture. Sorry.
That's a good picture, right?
If you go to Forbes, put my last name, you'll read all the articles. So I do have articles in DSTs and oil and gas, but I'm not here for that. Cool. Any single ladies? Liam's our single man. I'm trying to get him hooked up. Okay. All right, what questions you guys have?
We're at our time, but yes. Good.
Shoot.
I can understand the fee part.
Okay, so all fees are done at the sponsor level. So at settlement, because these are settled, you have your $1 million, your equity is not obligated to fees. The reason there's that 5 to 7, they have to earn back what they've already paid me. So there's probably, if you have to, Canner's not doing this stuff for free, Fred's not doing this stuff for free, someone had to manage the company and everything else. All that is probably going to be about a 10% under the hood. So if you give $1 million to Canner, and I'm using that as an example, about probably 93%, I'm giving you the worst case numbers, about 93 cents of every dollar is what actually goes into the land. Your statement shows 100%, and it's their obligation not only get back to par, but then all the returns I'm telling you are over par. So why do they do that? Well, every DST is appraised and sold for less than appraisal. So that $80 million property was appraised for 94, but only 8. So it allows some cushion there. And for me, I like it if they have that track record of making sure that when they get out, it's at a positive number, and that's why it's 5 to 7 years. Most DST people won't sell early if they're going to lose you money, because you're not going to come back. Because they want that, they'll want that next run. So it kind of goes in your favor. Shoot.
Did you say part of your service is unloading his portfolio?
No, I'm not a realtor. Yeah. We would be coordinated. Where we've helped people unload is we're the carrot for you to say, hey, would you like to buy I'd like to buy your things, or would you like to buy my things and not pay taxes? Like whatever opens up the conversation. If you want to buy something and they don't want to sell because he doesn't want to deal with another headache, he or she probably doesn't know what a DST is. You can dangle that, but I don't help. No, you have to already sell it before.
So he has a bunch of units. It could take a period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I did it as a bottom line math example. He's not our tenant. That portfolio would not be what he would end up going. Because we say I sold this for $500,000 or $5 million, and I got 500 of equity. We're going to do one DST. So if he did it piecemeal to different people, it would be it'd be an uglier, because every time he sold it would be another DST, or he paid taxes on it. The one that was 18 million, it was 2 tranches. And the buyer bought it in 2 tranches because banks had different loans, When you have that much in real estate, there's complicated debt in the back end. Shoot.
Pretty much all the funds that are going into the DST are coming from a 1031 transaction.
Right. Very few can do cash like we do.
So if you say you've got a, call it $18, $20 million portfolio of various properties, you're dealing with all those individual sales and timing of, all different points in time when they're going out. So that adds complexity to it. But then also, is there a difference with, you've probably got single purpose entities taking ownership, have ownership of all those various ones. Does everything have to be of a common entity of what it's rolling into?
Yep.
So unless you had, say, like 18 properties there, they're all in the same entity, this is all like completely separate.
For the IRS to be.
Yeah.
So if one of those properties were Fred and Bob and another property was Bob and Fred, they'd have to be different.
Well, what if it's even just like same different single-purpose entities that you might own 100% of each of them, they're still all separate.
Right.
Okay.
And if you own it as a syndication, that's not this. You can't sell that and get into this because you don't own that as real estate. You own real estate in that, but not. So you actually have to have settlement. Where this makes the biggest bang for the buck is large, old, like depreciated or CapEx. I'd say a property worth $1 million or more, and the person doesn't want to go into another headache. That's when you look at a DST, because then that $1 million can get into a much bigger, more institutional, run by someone else portfolio, and you're just taking one 1031 for another 1031. But if he had 18 different transactions, he'd have 18 different DSTs with 18 different. Now each DST will have its own debt and it's a nesting doll that goes wrong. We would only do it if it made it simpler.
Could you, follow up to that question?
Yeah.
Can you put, like, if he sells two properties with two different LLCs, can you put the two in one DST?
No, because to keep it, so 1031 is my cow for your cow, not my cow for your bull. The second, it's a different DST, it's a different cow. And that's an IRS, it's not me.
Okay,
Just like he couldn't 1031 from two different LLCs into a, he couldn't do it either, even if it wasn't using a DST.
The owner of each of those DSTs is going to be the LLC that, say, sold the property. The owner of the DST.
Yeah. So you would be an owner of the DST, but you'd be partial. So yeah, you had a question back there? Yeah.
Is it a general rule of thumb that you have to be accredited to be able to invest in DSTs, or no?
It's a government program. You can't not be. It would be illegal for me to tell you about it if I didn't already say, one, this is educational, two, I'm not selling. Everything you just saw is closed. None of those DSTs are open, so I'm not selling it to you. And that's the hardest part of the deal. You have someone who has an $800,000 building, and that's all they have, and they can't do this. If that's all they have to be $1 million, not counting their primary house. Now, not everybody, but probably people in your world. Shoot, sir.
So if you have single-family properties and you're selling them separately, and
each one will be a new.
Each one would be a new one, and it would go. You would have that LLC would live on forever.
Right. Until you die, and there's a step up, and it gets. Or.
And then I'm sorry, just finish the sentence. So we go into the DST, and you're in it, and maybe it's only $200,000 that you put in from the sale of your single-family property, and then when you pass it on to your children, they get a step-up basis? And,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that still is.
Yep. Yeah. And then, so depending on the DST, so if it was for you, and it's just because, we're talking about it, it may make sense to do the 1031, so where you have 3 different LLCs, all different names, all different 1031s, if all 3 were in the kind that do the 721 hop into a REIT, then even though you'd have 3 statements, they'd all be in the same REIT.
I see.
And that's how we unwind, because some people screw this up before they get to me. Other times they screw it up with me because that's what they wanted, and now they're like, I didn't know. I'm like, told you 18 land, you have 18 landings you have to worry about, and they just want to simplify. 10 years later, people are like, that's not what I wanted. I'm like, well, that's what you said you wanted. So then we'll do that, and now they have 3 different accounts. We didn't break the law, but now the beneficiaries. If I inherit $1 million from Rob, and I need the cash, I can cash out. If I'm someone, I don't need the cash, I'll inherit the shares and I'll keep it as shares. If it's a DST, they only get to leave the airport. They only get to cash out.
I see.
Make sense? Was there any other questions? I can stay later, by the way. Oh, yeah, there you go.
If you have a property and you have some debt against it and you could pay it off, or you roll it into a DST, what would be preferred? What gives you more options? Like, is it easier for you if there's no debt or more debt?
So, no debt means you can look at every DST on the market because you can buy any of them. And you're going to get a DST with debt. But no debt also means you have no amortization expenses off the income. So I typically, even if you sell and have no debt, you're going to get into a DST with debt. So whether you buy it or not. And let's say you cash out before, because you're allowed to cash out and then put your building up for sale. So I'm not saying, you just can't do them all at the same time. That's why we had that off the record conversation. Where are you going to put that money that you cash out on? What's the expense of the mortgage? Let's say it's a 5% mortgage. Where are you going to safely put it to get guaranteed to be above 5 versus keeping the debt at whatever it is, doing a 1031 and making tax-free? So it's up to the client, but it's...
match the amount of debt, though. Does it make it harder for you to...
No. There's like like that one that was 85% leverage. Sometimes I just put 30,000 in there just to make the whole thing tax-free. because all the good ones that we wanted, hypothetically, were at the 40% loan to value, and the client's coming with 50 plus. And it also depends what DST is on the market. So it's the hardest part for me is when explaining something that sounds like Bernie Madoff, because you have no idea, you never heard of it, and it's 19 years old, and people are like, oh, it sounds like Bernie Madoff. Like, well, you're writing a check to Cantor Fitzgerald, so, I'm pretty sure they're not gonna also be, doing that, as an example. What else would I want you to know? So that DST exchange, the website, go to Forbes. What other questions you guys have? So use it as a carrot.
And Landman season 2.
Landman season, absolutely.
Who is this not good for? Like
Young guys that want to be making, people that are making 3x on their money because they're buying real estate. They're great. This is the risk. This is when you're ready to cash out of that. Anyone that doesn't like the emotional part of it, you're giving up whether or not you care if there's a storm. Well, that's Cantor Fitzgerald. That's Aspun's problem.
Right. I don't have children, so thank you.
I have 4 that would love.
They love a new mother, right? Yes, I get that a lot. But so I'm not concerned about taxes like after me.
Right.
Yeah.
So
then you can do, you could do a higher income DST, because that we can bump up your income if we do more of the landman mineral rights. Because remember that you're only going to get your capital back. It's still going to be tax free, but they're not going to make you're not buying the land, milking it for all the money, and then selling it for more money down the road. What really happens is they buy new land that they don't pay you income on, and then that's the thing they sell that gives you the money to 1031. So we would, if you didn't have any kids and you wanted to not pay taxes and make really good income, we would overweight on the higher income deals that have less of a payout at the end, because the church is still going to get whatever, whoever you're giving it to. Rob's 4 kids, whatever. That makes sense?
Yeah.
What other questions?
I love you, Deb.
Yeah.
I will send Rob 2 things. I have a DST 101 document that is client facing. It's generic enough that your mother-in-law can read it. I'll send that to Rob. He can share it with everybody. Again, I'm local. I've done this for people I don't know and like, and I know and like Rob, so it's nice to be able to do this for people you like. And then if you see a whale and want to know how to take it down, and this might be something, call me. I'll tell you what we've done before.
Fred, you did mention, if we could just cover it. So I have off-market 4-unit came up. It's within my buy box. Older landlord that's used to the cash flow, but they're kind of tired of going over there literally every week and unlocking their own dumpster before whatever trash hauler comes. You mentioned at the beginning that this could be a good vehicle for. Did I understand you correctly? Like, this is why I'm offering to said landlord to purchase their property, and now what do they do with the hopefully $280,000?
Right. That's probably all taxable because he's owned it for so.
Taxable. They owned it what, 30 years? Right. Okay. So.
Absolutely. That's where I get a lot of cigars from real estate people. They were able to use it for that. And I would say from my standpoint, what is he selling it for? What's the debt, and what's the income we're trying to replace?
Yeah, $280,000, 0 debt, and realistically, what do we come up with, Tori? Like, he's probably making $30,000 cash flow.
Yeah,
he's the one over there unlocking.
So if you take those numbers and you can get 5 to 6%, that's what a normal DST will pay, not without going into the oil, without doing the and without doing a cash out, because there have been people that all their money is in real estate. They need, let's say 10%. There's no DST, no blended DSTs that I wouldn't put that much money in the oil and gas. So we do the 1031 cash out, and then I could do property, I can do private equity, I can do all the stuff that really makes income. We have a really good debt fund with Apollo, so we can get really good double-digit income, but we have to leave real estate. So we use the 1031 to crack the egg and do something not real estate, because real estate only pays what it pays.
So the seller would be 1031ing it? Or they wouldn't be?
They would 1031 into one that lets me take the money out and do something not real estate related.
Okay.
So that's a trick on my part. I'm giving you all my tricks. Shoot.
But in that scenario, that seller would still need to be accredited.
Yes.
Yeah. So you
yes.
got to make sure that person you're buying from
wasn't their only asset.
Right.
Because the accredited is what, $1 million, Fred?
$1 million. So if the property's $1 million, you don't have to worry about the awkward question I started the whole conversation with. Is
you also have to have certain income.
Or it's one or the other.
$1
million of net worth. Or 300,000 of joint income, 290. Yeah. And qualified purchaser is different, and I'm not going to, but
And how do you get qualified?
you just have to show a statement. And now for us, if you're doing a 1031 that's $1 million, the transaction qualifies you as accredited. There's a whole other, we went through compliance, like, listen, they're accredited because they're doing over $1 million, so why do we have to keep doing this circle? Did you have a question? There we go.
So I think you may have touched on this already, but I've kind of clicked in my head now. Let's say there's a development property that I want to acquire, well, $3 million. The seller's faced with, okay, I'm gonna have to pay capital gains on this, and this can be a tool to say, okay, talk to you. They can then take that $3 million, not be paying capital gains onto it by doing the transactions 1031 into the DST, and they can, working with you and the
We'll figure out what's best for
investment
them.
options, getting a certain return called, 4%, 7%.
I see a
whatever.
future cigar box coming. All right, $3 million. I can get you. I got you.
Everybody understand what? Yeah. So from
And I'm happy to come back.
90% of the room that's doing deals is this is an avenue for your seller, because most of the sellers are at this age. It's the silver wave, right? And it's like they don't want a 1031 into what you said. They're just trading headaches.
Yeah.
They want to get into an asset class where they can be doing whatever they want to do and not get a phone call and
The buyer of the $18 million was a syndicator. He needed it in his fund. So he's the other one that bought this. So the seller wanted to get out of 1,800 doors because I need a management company and the 1,800 doors. And I'm like, he said this to me, and I've never seen real estate the same, is I have 1,800 failure points. I'm like, shit. All right. Sorry. Make sure we clean up AI. So that ends up being, a good tool for everybody. And the syndicator got 1,800 doors, new cap at, he gets to write off new numbers. It was pretty cool. All right, what else we got?
The best way to contact you is this here?
Yeah, what does it say?
late
I don't
night
know.
texts. And
I got
whatever
people
else.
now. I don't know what
we got.
Yeah.
There's a phone number.
I got an OnlyFans.
He's a really good guy for different gifts.
Fredsfeet.com on
Yeah, he's got-
OnlyFans. Did you have a question?
Back off the record, put that on the cash out scenario that you mentioned.
I'm not Googling that.
$1.5 million cash out.
And 85.
15% might sit there for 20 years.
Yep.
But the kids will inherit that.
Yeah, I had to step up. Now, I'm not saying an Amazon 20 years from now or 4 brand new Social Security offices 20 years from now. I don't know what it's going to be worth.
Right.
Is it worth doing? Only if you tell me what the 85% is going to. If you're going to buy Bitcoin, if you're going to do something fun with it, if you're going to do something stupid with it, that's still up to you. But if you need that money back, it's not worth what you paid for it, and you don't get to use it until 20 years from now. Now, at that point, it'll be another 1031, or you walk away. Because if you're not here, now they have a step up, and you got to use, a big piece of the money before then. Good question.
So how should we get in touch?
Oh, is the 2003 number there?
Yes.
There, and there's a website. We're putting it.
CCWMG.
Yeah, that website. Start a conversation. We have a new page. I don't know if it's out yet. That says DST. And just say Rob's group or Dig or Bob the Builder fan club, and I'll know who it was.
Thank you, Fred.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to Living Well with Rent Well. We hope you loved that episode. We wish you a blessed day. Thank you for tuning in, and check in later.